Welcome to the very first episode of Metro Detroit Birth Stories. I'm Exie, and I'm so excited to be with you here today. If you're new to me, I am a birth and postpartum doula, childbirth educator, and perinatal mental and emotional wellness coach. I've been supporting families as a birth support specialist in Metro Detroit since 2005. You might also know me from listening to the previous iteration of this podcast, Doula to Doula, which I started during the pandemic and co-hosted with my friend and fellow doula, Chana. Like so many others, we jumped into podcasting when the world was shut down. We really missed seeing each other. Chana was brand new in her birth doula journey, and I was so excited to be together with a friend who was also in the birth work. And it was an incredible way for us to connect and share our knowledge and build community when everything felt so uncertain. I interviewed other birth workers in the area and got to know them by Zoom before we were able to start seeing each other in person again. So it was a really wonderful time. But over the course of a couple of years, as life slowly returned to normal, Chana and I both found ourselves pulled in very different directions. Work and family and other commitments just naturally took priority. And so then the podcast started to slow down. You can go back and listen to our Doula to Doula podcast, and you'll see that the time frame in between our episodes got longer and longer and longer. So now it's been actually a whole year since Chana and I last recorded together, and I think that might have been the only episode we got to record last year. I wasn't quite sure what to do with our podcast. And part of me really wanted to keep it the way it was, but I had to be realistic. And so part of me thought about walking away. But I've always loved having a space to share. And so Chana and I talked about it a little bit. And instead of letting the podcast go completely, with her blessing and support, I decided to reimagine it. That's what brings me here today. When I went into massage school, I knew I wanted to work with the perinatal or pregnant population. And so I got certified in prenatal massage and then immediately started looking into becoming a certified doula. So I did that. And throughout that time, I also became a childbirth educator. And during the pandemic, I joined Childbirth International as one of their trainers. And this has just gotten me a whole new outlook on this work. In 2023, my eldest son, got married. This was a huge milestone. And then if you're watching this on video, you can see that for the first time in 20 years after he got married, we had an extra room in the house. And so my husband and I converted it into my office with the help of Devin Bauman from Blondie on a Budget Design. So if you're seeing this on video, I hope you like my background. In 2023 also, the state of Michigan expanded Medicaid coverage for doula support. And that has been a total game changer here in Michigan. Something that so many of us wanted. We would see potential clients who had limited financial resources and could not pay our normal fees. And so many of us, me included, have done pro bono work over the years. But it's hard work and it takes a lot of time. And if you know anything about how a doula's schedule works, because doula work is based on the continuity of care, we limit the number of clients that we take each month. And so we really were unable to fully serve those in our community who were in great need. So since 2023, once the announcement was made, I jumped on the bandwagon and filled out all the paperwork and became credentialed to work with all of the insurance companies in the state of Michigan and Southeast Michigan. That brings me to November of 2024. In October, my lease of the office I had been in for 8 years in downtown Farmington, where I did both birth work and massage therapy, was expiring again. And it took a lot of time and thought for me to decide what to do. And the answer was for me to transition away from formal office massage therapy so that I could focus fully on birth work and perinatal mental and emotional wellness. Why perinatal mental and emotional wellness? Because it's so connected with pregnancy. There's so much involved with it. And I myself suffered from what I now know is undiagnosed postpartum depression. And so I know the emotional load that can happen on anybody when they have a newborn, but particularly on those who do not have a strong support system. So during all of this, I was also getting trained formally through Postpartum Support International. In December, I achieved my goal of passing my exam. So I now have Postpartum Support International, or PSI's, credentials of PMHC, which means Perinatal Mental Health Certified. I'm not a therapist or a counselor, but I can help my clients, those that I'm working with throughout their pregnancy and birth, or those who just come to me to kind of bridge the gap and help them navigate that heavy emotional load that comes with pregnancy and birth and having a newborn and all of those changes. So that was a huge goal and a huge achievement for me. So that brings me to today. Now I'm recording this in March, the end of March 2025. And I am so excited. I guess I can announce it because it has been publicly made known. I have been asked to present at this year's MDHHS Maternal Infant Health Summit's first annual Doulas Do Day, which will come the day preceding the summit. I'm just so honored, and I feel like it's such a privilege. Honestly, it just confirms that the steps that I've taken over the last couple of years, but specifically over the last few months, it just confirms that I am making the right choices. So why renew and relaunch my podcast amidst all of this? Because stories matter. I love to hear stories. I watch documentaries all the time because I want to know the stories behind historical events, movies that are made from true life events, all of those things. I want to hear the stories. And for years, I've worked with parents who have had incredible and challenging and beautiful and healing birth experiences. I often hear from my clients, maybe those who have had babies previously, I wish I had known this before. Or, no one told me this could happen. But alternatively, I've also heard it with this perspective. I wish I had known this before. Now I know what to do. Or, no one told me this could happen, that I could have such an incredible birth experience. Metro Detroit Birth Stories podcast is a space to share those real, raw, and inspiring stories. I'm going to feature conversations with parents, doulas, other birth professionals like lactation consultants and pelvic floor therapists, all sharing their experiences so that you can hear them and connect with little nuggets in their stories so that you can feel more prepared for your own birth journey. I have some really exciting episodes planned. My first interview is next month. It will be my April episode. I plan on doing these once a month. And that interview is going to be with a wonderful woman named Christy. She's going to explain why she reached out to me to share her birth story. So what does that mean for you? It means I want to hear from you. If you're a parent or a birth worker in Metro Detroit and you have a story to share, or even outside of Metro Detroit, because hey, we've got technology, right? If you have a birth story, any kind of birth story that you want to share, it doesn't matter if it was 6 months ago or 60 years ago. Those experiences stay with us and I want to hear it. So I'd love to feature you on the podcast. You can message me on social medias. I am on Instagram at Metro Detroit Birth Support. You can find me on Facebook, Tranquil Touch Birth and Women's Wellness, or you can email me, Metro Detroit Birth Stories at tranquiltouchforwomen.com. Any of those ways works for me, and if you're in Metro Detroit, we can even meet together personally to record and have you share your story. So here's to new beginnings. Thank you so much for joining me on this first episode. I can't wait to bring you more birth stories, insight from the field, from my experiences from a professional point of view, and conversations in the months ahead. Until next time, please take care of each other. I hope that you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you again real soon.